Right, let's start today's session. This is the second demo lecture of .NET 8. So in the last lecture, we just discussed basic introduction of .NET 8. So who are new to this session, I strongly recommend to watch the first video of my .NET lecture, especially this batch in DURGASOFT YouTube channel. Even after completion of demo session, our team will send a demo link to you so that you can click on that link. You can able to watch the first lecture which was happened yesterday. So in the yesterday session, I simply discussed what is .NET and .NET framework, .NET core framework, and what subjects I'm going to cover in entire .NET package like C#.NET, ASP.NET Core MVC with entity framework, web API, and UI basics, Microsoft SQL Server. These are the subjects which I covered in .NET package. Right. In today's session, I'm going to explain you what are the .NET framework versions as well as .NET core versions. So you must know the versions also clearly, which are related to .NET framework as well as core framework. Obviously, we are not at all going to discuss any more things about .NET framework, but you must know that our topics completely C#.NET lectures, ASP.NET lectures, MVC lectures, Web API, Entity Framework, all we will cover with core platform only. I said already, initially .NET launch the .NET framework only, which is from 2002 to 2015, which is platform dependent style. Okay, platform dependent. Platform dependent means which will run on only Windows or OS operating system, which is not support all the operating system from 2000 to 2015. But from 2016 onwards, Microsoft launched .NET Core platform. Till date, we are using .NET Core and platform independent style, that is, which can run on all operating system, as I said. Same like Java, how Java became a popular because of platform independent style. Now .NET also platform independent, but only we have to use core framework. Still some people may use .NET framework only. So because they wanted to make their .NET applications or platform dependent style, whoever wants to still work with the .NET framework, the latest version of .NET framework is .NET framework 4.8. But who are .NET Core, that latest version is .NET Core 8 only. Okay, so totally you must know framework versions and core versions along with Visual Studio also. Yes, what is Visual Studio here? What is the role of Visual Studio in .NET? It is very important to know, sir, because once we start programming part in .NET, that total programming part we are going to write through one editor. That editor name is called Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is just an editor tool. Visual Studio, which is popular editor, especially for .NET programmers. Visual Studio is just an editor tool, which is used to write the .NET programs and execute. .NET programs means .NET application code totally we can write in Visual Studio editor tool and we can execute. So this is the most popular editor tool for .NET programmers. So Visual Studio versions also there. That's the reason I'm showing clearly. First, Microsoft, whatever they launch initially in the year of 2000, that I'm explaining .NET framework versions along with Visual Studio version. But anyway, we are working with core versions. What are the core versions and which core version we are using currently? Also, I'm going to discuss. First, let's talk about .NET framework version and Visual Studio version. I'm writing here .NET framework versions here along with Visual Studio versions also. Visual Studio versions. Yes. So .NET Framework versions, Visual Studio version, both I'm writing. Try to understand that. So we have to combinationally, we have to work with this. First, initially, Microsoft announced .NET 1.0 framework. In this context, Microsoft recommend only VS. VS means Visual Studio. Later, they introduced 2.0. In this context, they were recommend to use Visual Studio 2003. Editor tool the version it is. And no, it is 1.1. It's my mistake. Okay, Framework 1.1, Visual Studio 2003. Framework 2.0, .NET Framework 2.0. At that time, Microsoft recommend to use Visual Studio 2005. And later they introduced a 3.0 .NET Framework. Then I'm asking you not applicable here. That is only they recommend to use Visual Studio 2005 for 3.0 also. At the time of launching 3.0 framework, Microsoft not released any Visual Studios version separately. They were recommend to use only Visual Studio 2005 only. Next 3.0 after 3.5, .NET Framework 3.5. Then here Visual Studio 2008, Visual Studio 2008 version. 4.0 here Visual Studio 2010. Visual Studio VS 2010. 4.5. These are all framework versions which I'm explaining. 4.5 Visual Studio 2012. Visual Studio 2012. Next 4.6 Visual Studio 2015. 2013 also they recommend, but here Visual Studio 2015 I'm writing 4.6. 13 also there, that is not completely full version. Then 4.7 Visual Studio 2017. Visual Studio. Latest 4.7.2 also it was there, 4.7.1 or 4.7.2 subversion. At that time, Microsoft released Visual Studio 2019. And the latest version of .NET Framework 4.8, currently who wants to work with framework, they are using Framework 4.8 along with Visual Studio 2022 only. This is the latest Visual Studio, what we are going to use in our coding also. Visual Studio 2022 we are using, sir. So 4.8 framework, latest framework. Who wants to develop .NET application which makes platform dependent style, that means which can able to run on only Windows operating system, they better to use 4.8 latest version. If they use 4.8, better to use what version of Visual Studio editor? Visual Studio 2022 version need to be used. But anyway, this is just for understanding point of view, because first time you're going to learn .NET, so you must know about framework versions and Visual Studio versions, that's all. But we are not at all going to discuss all the programming language, all the subjects in .NET Framework 4.8. Our main version are core versions, no? Yes, we are, as already I said, core in the sense which makes platform independent style completely. Yes, latest Microsoft recommend to develop the programs or develop the application with core platform, which makes platform independent style. There is no compatibility issues further anymore. So now it's time to discuss our main thing, that is .NET Core versions. .NET Core versions I'm speaking. So what is .NET Core version? How to work with this? We can see what is our version, .NET Core version. We will see that. Okay. Yes. See, sir, as I said that in the last lecture, .NET Core released firstly in the year of 2016. Till date, we are using .NET Core version. From 2016, you can see Visual Studio 2016. But you may get doubt. Sir, you are saying .NET Core version was released in 2016. But in Visual Studio 2017 4.7. Yes, along with parallelly core version, they were released framework versions also. Okay, this is the last framework which they released. Okay, from 2016 onwards, along with core version, they were released updated for framework versions also. That you have to keep it in your mind. Let's talk about .NET Core versions here. First, .NET Core. They were released core version 1.0 in the year of 2016. See, somebody is typing or drawing something. Please erase immediately because the screen is making disturb. Yeah, fine. 2016. Next year, .NET Core 2.0. Microsoft released one more core version, which is in the year of 2018. Next, .NET Core 3.0 in the year of 2019. So let me copy paste so it will be easy to manage. Here, .NET Core 3.1, that is also in the year of 2019. .NET Core 5.0 directly, 5. So we can say .NET 5 version here, 2020 year. Next to .NET Core 6.0, 2021. So in the year of 2021, .NET Core 6.0 was there. Now .NET Core 7.0 in the year of 2023. 2023. .NET Core 8.0. Right now we are in 8 version, current version, which is ongoing, but 9 also ready to be launched. But we are not go through 9, we are go through 8 only. .NET Core 8, it's a standard and a lifetime support is there for this core version 8.0. This is 2024. So which is the latest. So now our core version is what, sir? 8.0, or we can call it as this also .NET 8. And 2024 it is released. So we are using core version .NET 8.0 for development of our application. But what is our Visual Studio? You know, Visual Studio 2022 only. So I'm using .NET Core 8.0 version with Visual Studio 2022 version. But even still, the people who wants to make their .NET applications are platform dependent, they can use 4.8. This is .NET framework. Core version means 8 version. We are using .NET Core 8 version here. Okay, that is in Visual Studio. See, simply I can show you quickly with opening Visual Studio. One application I'll try to create. I'm not going to create application, just I will show you the versions actually. See here. For example, anyway, we will launch the Visual Studio also clearly step by step. Now you can see Visual Studio I'm opening, which is already there in my computer because I'm trying to handle many batches right now. So for them, I have already installed Visual Studio 2022. Just observe here, okay? It is Microsoft Visual Studio. Suppose I want to create a new project here. I'll show you with both ways, framework version and core version. What is the difference? You can observe. Create new project. I'll select our programming language is C#.NET language, all platform. One of the application I can choose any application where it's console application or Windows application or web application. Let's say console application simply. I'm not going to create at all for your kind information. Okay. Console application I'm saying. There are 2 templates are there. Are you noticing, sir? It is one of the basic application, console application. 2 templates are there here. First template, console app. Second template, console app. In bracket, what you notice, .NET framework. So choice is yours. If you go through this template, console application can create and which will run only on .NET framework platform. But the moment when I choose this one, .NET framework, not it is core framework, which can run on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, other operating system. First, let me select this one just to go through few steps and go back again. Okay, so let's go to next application name. It is asking. Now you can observe. This is main observation. For this only I'm creating this. Just .NET framework 4.8 is there. You can expand 4.7.2, subversions 4.6.1, 4.6, 5.1, 5. Like this only. 4 version is the latest. 4.8 version here. This is the latest. If you are going to create a .NET framework application like this, but anyway, I'm going back. Now you can see I'm selecting first template now. This template indicates that you are not going to create application using .NET framework. You are going to create application using core framework. You can see, you will also see next window, what framework will it be, .NET framework 4.8 or core framework. You can see this. I'm selecting this template, going to next button. Now console application name is there. Again, I'm asking you to go to next button, but wait, here you can observe. What is the framework, sir? .NET 8.0. This is the core framework version. Even when we expand, you can see this core 3.1 out of support, 6.0 out of support, 7.0 out of support, 8.0 long time support, 9.0 standard time support. It is not still announced, so it is on the way to making completely available. But we are using this .NET 8.0. This is core version. That clarity. So two templates are providing every time in VS Code because, yeah, Mr. Ashwin, go ahead. I cannot hear you, Mr. Ashwin. Please speak loud. Hello. I'm not audible, man. Not at all audible. No voice. At least try to type the query in chat box so that I can read it and I can answer you quickly. Because completely your audio is in mute, I think so. Please increase your volume. Please type your query and in the message box so that chat box I can read and I can tell you clearly. I got the message. Wait a minute. If you are saying out of support, what does it mean? Yeah, that is in the sense Microsoft community is not going to give long-term support. Even if you develop the applications, support will not come from them. So that's what they are recommending to you to choose current version, stable version, which is going to provide that support from Microsoft team. If you have any struggle while developing the project implementation or deploying like that only. I got clarity? Anyway, it is showing out of support. Why? Because I am showing that Visual Studio Code, VS Visual Studio 2022, this is not a licensed version, you know. So there are three options are there again. That is why the reason is it is showing out of support for me actually. But actually you have to think once, look at this. For example, for the first time, if you want to download Visual Studio, simply I can show you download Visual Studio 2022, for example. Okay, just try to understand what I'm saying, because there are a lot of things are there need to be discussed here. So if you go to this one, Microsoft official website it is, but notice this in the Visual Studio 2022, you can click on this link, first link, and notice this here we have Visual Studio. Three options are there. We have community version, professional version, enterprise version. But they are saying what if you are using community? Yes, I am using community. It is a free version. That's the reason they are giving us that is .NET 6.0, 7.0 out of support. But actually, when you go to professional and enterprise version, still support will come from Microsoft team, because this is, you can see when we place mouse pointer, it's a free for individual developers, academic users, and open source contributors. And for professional editor, if you do, it is free trial for individual use. Trial version only available. After evolution period, 30 days or 90 days period over, they will ask you to purchase this one. When we go to Enterprise 2022, free trial for organization. If you are using organization, some team size, then they are recommend to use Enterprise Edition. This is also license or paid version here. Just I'm using community version. Those who are implementing community version 2022, they are giving not support for .NET 8.0, 7.0, 6.0. They will recommend latest version, that is core 8.0. But if you go with professional, as well as Enterprise Edition. Obviously, support will come from Microsoft. So there is a reason that is okay. So ultimately, our .NET Core version is 8.0 and Visual Studio 2022 and Microsoft SQL Server 2022. See here, Microsoft SQL Server version also important. So latest version only Microsoft SQL Server we use, but all the latest only. But only the difference is framework people, they use 4.8, core people, they use 8.0, or else .NET 8 also we can say that. Fine. So this is complete versioning and history, completely basic introduction we completed. Now it's time to begin main introduction part. So before going to start, our main programming part is C#.NET only. See sir, C#.NET versions also there. Okay, but C#.NET versions depend on what what version you are using, core version, it depends on C#.NET version. For suppose I'm going to use .NET Core 8.0. What will be the C#.NET version, C#.NET 12. If we go for .NET Core 7.0, for example, C#.NET 11. Go for .NET 6 version, C#.NET 10. So if anybody asks you which version of C#.NET you are learning, means you have to say C#.NET 12. C#.NET version 12.0. I'll explain C#.NET versions also. From 1.0 onwards, it's begin. Currently, this is C#.NET 12.0. Why? Because we are using .NET Core 8 framework. 8 framework is recommended to use C#.NET version 12 only. It is the latest. Okay. You are learning latest, no worries, because still many institutes or organization people are teaching Core 6.0 and 7.0 maximum. Even they didn't enter latest one only. Even though for the namesake they used to say 8.0, but they don't include 8.0 concepts at all. Still that old patterns they'll follow. Okay, that's the reason I'm telling you. So when I talk about C#.NET, I will also disclose complete C#.NET versions step by step. But now it's time to show you the main introduction part here after getting all the versions. So let me show you the explanation part, execution process in .NET. So it is also most importantly, you have to know every .NET programmer.
Hello.
So tell me.
Sir, what is the difference between these versions, sir? .NET Core 6, 7, 8, something. Mm.
Can you please tell me, repeat it? What is the difference between?
What is the difference between different versions?
Ah, see, sir, we cannot explain each and every detailing. Why? The reason is I'll tell you. Simple logic, I'll tell you. See, version to versions, updations will take place. I hope you understand that. Updation means, for example, .NET Core 7.0, some techniques are there, but they will give some basic improvement features. They are providing us latest features in Core 8 only.
Okay.
So do you want to know that exactly features? You can also Google it simply, because we can't able to discuss all the latest versions, different features. When it comes to syllabus, we will introduce clearly this is the so and so concept they introduced it in latest version. Even something, for example, just for example, I'm telling you, every time Android OS will update, Android 13, 14, 12 like that. So that means updation. Same like in the .NET Core 8.0, whatever the programmers face struggles in 7.0, Microsoft, after conducting the survey, they introduce some new features for programmer flexibility that will be available in .NET Core 8. Even if you go through Google, latest major changes in .NET Core 8 means what are the latest feature 8.0 means they will give you lot of features, but we are not in the position to understand it because we don't know previous ones versions like that only. That's the reason I'm not explaining that. But we will go through 8.0 features only. Even I'll explain while explanation of topic what changes have done majorly or minorly also I'll explain clearly. Only
Okay.
just small changes.
Okay.
Yeah. So version to version, that changes only there. That's the reason they introduce new versions. Otherwise, they'll ask you to use 1.0 itself only. So market updates, market trends, our business needs, application needs, they introduce more flexibility features in Visual Studio as well as version history also. That is the only reason.
Okay. Earlier versions also we can use, no?
Obviously, that's what I'm saying. No minor changes, no major changes from earlier version to new version. That's the reason still companies are using 5.0 or 6.0 only. Because see, even though we are teaching .NET 8.0, it doesn't mean that all companies are still developing all their projects in Core 8 only. It is not a stable version. It is a latest version. Stable version meaning is what? Still majority of the company people, what version they are using into their developing ongoing projects. Mostly I can say .NET 6 or 7 is the or 5 is the stable version. Still they are using that is only, not 8. Because 8 introduced where? 2024. At the moment, whenever Microsoft announce new version, all the company people, whatever already they take up the projects from long back, like 3-4 years back, immediately they cannot migrate into Core 8. No, that's completely big trouble. So that's not process actually. Even the company people, they might use after 2-3 years only, they will come with .NET Core 8.0, as per my perception.
Okay, sir, understood.
Yeah, that's the reason. So all ongoing projects still the old version through only. But anyway, so they launch the new versions, latest version if you learn, then advantage will be there because you will be move forward whenever you get job. So easily we can able to manage the old versions if you know the new versions features and all. So let's talk about code execution process of .NET. This is a code execution process of .NET in the sense the moment when we write any program with languages, okay, like C#.NET language, whenever we run the program, automatically you will get output after process some few seconds or few minutes mostly. But internally, how it's going to be takes place, how the compilation takes place, what process is going to be happen internally. That is called code execution process of .NET. See, sir, one more important thing I want to tell you. .NET supports plenty of languages like C#.NET only we are speaking our main programming language C#.NET only, no? But it supports plenty of languages like C# not only VB.NET is there, J#.NET is there, F#.NET is there, JScript.NET is there, Iron Python, Iron Ruby, Windows PowerShell, and many more. Around 60 plus Microsoft .NET languages are there. Do you believe? 60 plus. Yes. So in that 60 plus, top most languages are 3 or 4 maximum, like C#, VB, JScript, F#, J#, like that, according to the business needs again. But most of the people, they recommend to use to learn C#.NET. It's a most powerful language among all of them. Even though .NET, Microsoft.NET supports plenty of languages, yes, there are a lot of programming languages are there in .NET family, but we use ultimately C#.NET one language is enough because which is the most popular language. So if you write code in C#.NET standard, then the moment when we write the code, generally we need to execute. But in the execution process, what steps will be involved? I'm telling you. See, sir, in the entire the .NET programming languages, no matter whether you're using C#.NET or VB.NET or any other .NET languages, code can be compiled twice. Code can be compiled twice. Twice means 2 times compilation takes place. I'll tell you exactly. So first of all, in Visual Studio, if I write code in C#.NET standard, whatever the logic you are going to write C#.NET language standard, that is source code, I can say that. SC means source code. Immediately the source code is transferred to LC. LC means language compiler. If I use C# language code, source code, then C# language compiler is there to compile our program. Okay, source code can be usually compiled by language compiler. After successful compilation, it will produce a different code. That code is called MSIL, Microsoft Intermediate Language, or it also called as CIL, Common Intermediate Language. This is most important, sir, MSIL or CIL. This code is completely related to Microsoft understandable format. That means Microsoft .NET Core platform or framework platform understand only this code. And this is up to here, first compilation is going to take place. First compilation, this is only. In first compilation, usually the source code can be compiled by language compiler, that to respective language compiler. If you are using C# language, C# language compiler. If you use VB.NET, VB language compiler. So source code is compiled by language compiler. After successful compilation, it produces a special type of code, that is MSIL code, Microsoft Intermediate Language. It also called as Common Intermediate Language. But one thing I can say, sir, this code is not a system understandable code. Still, this is normally high language format like English language format. You know that our computers, our systems, operating system cannot understand high level language what we are writing, that need to be converted into completely native code, that is binary format or byte code. So this is first compilation. In the next compilation, this Microsoft Intermediate Language code can be transferred to a main component in entire .NET, CLR JIT compiler, JIT compiler. This is the second compilation actually. CLR stands for Common Language Runtime. Okay. So once that Microsoft Intermediate Language code can be transferred to CLR JIT compiler, again in the CLR, JIT compiler will recompile the code. Why recompilation means? Most of the logic can be compiled in the first time compilation, but mainly managed code or rest of the code can be compiled by just-in-time compiler. It will recompile the code. Why you should recompile means this Microsoft Intermediate Language standard code is not byte code. To convert this MSIL code into byte code, again CLR should compile that code by using just-in-time compiler. It is integrated with CLR. After successful compilation, the CLR will produce what code? Byte code. This is called binary code or native code, zeros and ones format. Obviously, this byte code can be transferred to our operating system OS. Finally, operating system will process and it will show the output to the user. So this is the second compilation of program execution. Second compilation. So ultimately, in .NET program execution, like no matter any programming language you choose, okay, that programming language code compiled twice. It will compiled twice, sir. 2 times code can be compiled. First compilation, source code will be compiled by respective language compiler and it produces MSIL code or CL code. This code is not a understandable operating system because it is still high level language mode only, like English language format, which is related to purely Microsoft format. And this Microsoft intermediate language code can transfer to CLR for execution. But this CLR JIT compiler will compile this MSIL code and convert this code into byte code only. This byte code finally transferred to operating system for further process. So this is going to happen whenever we try to execute any program in .NET. This is the internal process. So here I'm writing abbreviation source. SSC means source code, sir. SSC means source code. LC means language compiler. Language compiler. LC means. Now MSIL means Microsoft Intermediate Language. Microsoft Intermediate Language Code. Next, CIL. It is also same LC, MSIL. CL means Common Intermediate Language Code. Common Intermediate Language Code. Common Intermediate Language Code. CLR is the main component that is called Common Language Runtime. Common Language Runtime. JIT stands for Just-in-Time Compiler. Just-in-Time Compiler. So this is the main abbreviations of this code execution process components. So MSCL and CLR. Main component is CLR. See, sir, it is very important for us. How Java programmers will have the JVM architecture, Java virtual machine. How it plays the important role in the Java program execution. Same in .NET program execution. Who play the important role means CLR, Common Language Runtime. So this is the main component. Without CLR, we can't execute our code. We can't run our code. If you want to run the .NET code completely without any problem or issue, CLR component is compulsory required. So common language runtime. It will provide runtime environment for all .NET programming applications. No matter programmer has choose what language it is, whether you may choose C#.NET, whether you may choose VB.NET or other .NET languages, compulsory CLR should be there. But how it comes our CLR? Do we install the CLR component or anything? No need. Because even somebody asked me, sir, to work with the .NET, is that required to install .NET framework or core framework separately? No need. Then how it comes, sir? Simple. CLR integrated with the .NET framework as well as core framework. Okay. So .NET Core or .NET framework also automatically integrated with Visual Studio 2022. Even if we install Visual Studio 2022 for the first time, automatically including core framework and all the libraries, common language runtime, and rest of all components automatically will come with the Visual Studio 2022. So ultimately, do you want to work with the complete .NET programs with all languages like C#, SQL Server, C#, ASP.NET, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, all these, do you want to work with programming patterns? Only one software is enough, that is Visual Studio 2022, sir. But along with Visual Studio 2022, currently it's not required. Next in future, okay, Microsoft SQL Server 2022 also is required, SQL Server version. So two softwares are really important to us. One is Visual Studio, next one is SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. Right now, Microsoft SQL Server is not necessary, okay, for many times, because after completion of C# only, we'll focus on SQL Server database. At that time, I'll tell you what tool need to be installed in your computer, Microsoft SQL Server. Two softwares are enough, but these two softwares are heavyweight software, Visual Studio as well as Microsoft SQL Server. It will take minimum 20 to 30 minutes installation for the first time, Visual Studio 2022, as well as Microsoft SQL Server. And once you got successful installation, happily you can practice all the related programs like C#, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, all ASP.NET, everything we can build, not a problem. So this is software configuration. And one more thing, to install this Visual Studio 2022 and Microsoft SQL Server, no much more software configuration is required. Just nowadays, any device maintaining like 4 GB RAM minimum, that's enough. And Windows operating system, that's enough, not a matter. It's easily we can install it. But one thing is for sure, do you want to install Visual Studio? Simply, I recommend to do this one, sir. Please try to download and install today itself, if possible. So Visual Studio here, this I recommend. Community only how to use it. So once you click on this Community 2022, automatically you will get a Visual Studio .executable file. Okay. So after that, you can proceed, double click on that. You can go through steps installation. The moment when we go through installation process, you will get one wizard window. In that window, we have to choose options like C#.NET development, ASP.NET development. That checkboxes we can activate and proceed to install. That's it. Nothing to worry. So from there onwards, you will be able to launch Visual Studio 2022 and we can able to practice all the programs clearly, sir. Okay. So this is today demo session, versioning and code execution process. Tomorrow we'll try to discuss .NET components as well as we will enter into immediately C# .NET introduction. C# .NET language we will start. Because I said for the first 45 days to 50 days working days, my focus is completely on C# .NET. Because without having C# .NET knowledge, you can't go with ASP.NET, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API. No, not possible. So you must gain the lot of subject in C# only. Because mainly in interviews, they must focus asking many questions in programming language through only. After that, once you are good in programming language, then they'll ask the questions related to web development process like MVC, Entity Framework, in that area only. Advanced level questions they may ask. And if they want to test you in the database level, they'll ask more questions related to Microsoft SQL Server also. Okay, so Microsoft SQL Server also in depth we will cover. Okay, the content will be there. And moreover, Mr. Ashwin, so we are trying to update the content, especially ASP.NET point of view. I'll let you know that in the tomorrow. Check in the website. Tomorrow mostly it will update. Okay, I said already to my team, I informed that. So they are in the process of updating. Already I sent the content also to them. That content will be able to appear in the website to all users, which I'm going to cover, especially ASP.NET Core, Entity Framework, Web API, everything will be there in detailing. Okay, but C# and SQL Server, it's a common everywhere. That's no changes. But ASP.NET Core, MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, a lot more changes are there. That was old and this is a new. So that's all. If you have any questions still, you can feel free to ask me. Yes, Mr. Harsha, Tom Rocker. Can we join only for C#? Obviously. Only initially you can join for only C#.NET because it's depends on your needs, man. Only C#.NET you can join first, enroll the course. After completion of C#, we wish to really continue with the complete .NET package also. At that time, we can enroll it, no problem. Yeah, you need C# means that's quite enough. Happily, you can join. You have to mention while enrolling for this course only C#.NET. Yeah, fine. In only C#.NET also, we have a lot of topics like database communication. Okay, we can do operations against the database. Everything is there in C# only also. But only ASP.NET means complete web development process. Duration of C#.NET course is minimum 45 working days, maximum 50 working days. 45 to 50 working days. Yeah. So thank you for attending this session. See you tomorrow. You can use the same link. Please go through few more demos. After that, you can decide that. Okay. Yes. Have a nice time. See you tomorrow.